Hello and welcome. Today we've got Jason Q back and we will be discussing Nothing Can Stop What Is Coming, the IRS, JFK Jr. and Trump's speech. And Jason Q says that this week is Boom Week. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Telegram channel and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview. Jason, thank you for joining me. And where do we begin with Boom Week? You said it started on Sunday. Can you please tell us in details exactly what is going on this week?
Okay, so Sunday, it was the date was 7/11, right? There was something really big that happened that day 88 years ago. It's the 88th anniversary. It's when the Internal Revenue Service was signed into it was signed in New York.
Right.
It was signed by the Bartons. They were a husband and wife, Barton, and there was another guy, Lawrence Echevarria, or I always mess up his last name. It just how it's spelled. It just sounding out. I butcher it every time. It's Echevvicia. And what happened was they signed this in New York, but it was a trust in Delaware that held it. Now, as soon as you hear like trust Delaware, to instantly think, well, who's in put it up a little bit. Who's in office right now that has ties to Delaware? It'd be Biden, right? Who's trying to raise everybody's taxes? Biden. Right? So Biden has got to be a Barton. He has got to be the link to the IRS. It's got to be. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm willing to bet the farm on that one.
So 1 minute, 1 second. You're saying that he's the link to the IRS.
Link. Yeah, the link.
The link.
Yes.
When you say link, in which way do you mean he's the link in this movement?
He's tied into the IRS.
Right. And how, please?
Because the IRS was created to finance the Nazis during World War II. But it was all based on copyright. It was based on accounting books and copyright laws. So it had nothing to do with like revenue, taxes, anything like that. It had to do with just strictly accounting books, and anything having to do with accounting books and copywritten material. That's what it had to do with. So if you think like businesses, every business has an accounting book. You're dealing with a fiat currency, so you're going to have accounting. Well, they pretty much just jumped the gun on that. They paid $20,000. They created 200 shares of stock. And when they did this, they made it so that those 200 shares, they're split up between the three of them, that nobody can come in and look at their books. And it's like, that's pretty sketchy right there. But they let it slide. They let it slide, and they signed it on 7/11/1933. So this was the 88th anniversary Sunday. So now when we think about the whole Boom Week, I mean, it's going to go from Sunday to Saturday, right? Well, of course, on 7/17, we have 7/17/2019. Okay, that's when the Congress actually, the House of Representatives, it was January 24th, 2019, was when Joe Connolly from Connecticut, he introduced the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act, right?
Right.
The problem is that was already introduced back in 2012. So why would you introduce it again? What they did was they used that as a mask for the CARES Act. They created the CARES Act under that. So when we talk about the CARES Act, we know that it had to do with the sickness, right? Well, how could you possibly come up with the CARES Act for that when it didn't hit until late October and November of that year? So already you were 10 months ahead of schedule in creating this CARES Act. How and why? Right? So when we say this whole, how everything came about, it was introduced on 1/24. but it was voted on and passed on 7/17. Now, why that date is so big? Well, number one, the numbers, correct? Now, you look at the numbers this year, like 7, 17, 21, everything has to do with sevens. But also, what happened the day before that in 1999? It was when JFK Jr. had his plane crash that night on 7/16/99. So they passed this on the next day of the
7/17.
Yes, on 7/17 of 2019. So they did it on a 20-year anniversary. I mean, they really think that they're slick on this, right? So there was just a big problem with this because Junior knew that they rigged his plane. And he had Navy SEALs come in and check it out and everything. And they found all the bombs and everything. So he turned around and sold his plane, the 529 JK. He sold it to his company. He had a company called Random Ventures, right? And he bought another. He bought a Piper Saratoga, and that's the one he flew. But they only had a limited amount of time to put another bomb on. So he gave it till July 16th to put a bomb on, and they went ahead and did it. Well, that's when the SEALs trapped them, when they caught him putting the bomb on. Mm-hmm. So they went ahead and put some dummies in there and flew it out, parachuted out, put some dummies there, just let it blow up in midair. But they still have the one plane with the bombs on it, the 529 JK. Now, when you think about his company name, Random Ventures, look at the initials. It's RV. It's like, do these guys know like a lot more than we think? It's looking that way. It really is. Right. So when they say that, Hillary Clinton, like the start, when they say like JFK crash and then Hillary Clinton Senate, and this is the start. What if this is the start on Saturday? Because they said that they were in the newspaper, they said that they were hunting for JFK's plane, JFK Jr.'s plane. Well, as we know, the hunters become the hunted. Well, maybe they're hunting more than we think. They're hunting the same ones that had him killed, had him off. And remember, he did write a scathing letter to Joe Biden calling him a traitor. So he knows a lot more than what's going on. So what if Biden had him offed? It wasn't Hillary. I mean, it could have been Biden, Hillary, all of them. They were all in on it. But Biden was a big player in this. Not the dumb one that they have in charge now. That one's just a clone. He's useless. The one that they had before, yeah, he had a lot of power behind him.
Right.
And I mean, look, he was in the Council of Foreign Relations and how he had all this clout. And you think now it's like, look at this guy. It's like, there's no way that it's the same person. Mm-hmm. Not a chance. Nobody goes that downhill with dementia. Unless, well, remember, once he leaves office, then all of his records can be exposed from the University of Delaware. That's why they have him locked up, because they want at his records. Because in the beginning, right after college, he had the stuttering problem. Well, he got a stuttering problem from a surgery he had. He actually had a brain surgery to cure his pedophilia urges. It looks like it didn't work. There was a real big secret surgery too. You think about it, back in college, and he's been in Congress for 47 years. How much damage has he really done?
But how do we know that the stuttering isn't from the clone deteriorating?
No. The stuttering he had way early on.
Oh, I see.
After the surgery, after college, because he had the surgery in college when he transitioned from college to the Senate, because he was one of the youngest senators to ever serve.
Why would he want to do anything about the pedophilia?
Well,
because they're all the same. Why would he be a good guy and want something, why would he want to get rid of it?
Well, it probably wasn't his call. It's probably the people above him saying, hey, we want you in there so you could do this. So yeah, you got to cut back on this. Because, I mean.
But you're saying it's a possibility. You're not sure.
Well, I mean, I'm 99% sure.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't there, so it doesn't give it 100, but everything points to the whole. I mean, if you're a pedophile, you're a rapist. I mean, there's nothing else you can be. I mean, anybody that's going to commit pedophilia, they're going to do a whole lot worse. Because I mean, really, what's worse? I mean, you already killed the kid, even if the kid's alive. I mean, you killed him inside, mentally, emotionally, everything. I mean, you might as well just dig a hole and just chuck him in, because you've literally murdered that kid, just his whole psyche, his whole head. And to think how many times this has happened in all 47 years, and how much because that's what Watergate was all about. Watergate was all pedophilia. And now we see in the drops Watergate times 1,000. It's gotten way out of hand. I mean, they used the White House for child trafficking. That's bad. That's
absolutely. So tell us more about Boom Week. What else is happening behind the scenes that we should be aware of? And what should we be excited about?
Oh, you should be excited about everything. I mean, you have, because what it is that you have, the calendar. Okay. What they did is, how we always have to change, the calendars they have, it has 12 months, but they split the calendar. The calendar goes from January to June, July to December. If you put them in columns, right? January to June in one line, July to December in the next line. The June 21st and December 21st both line up, right? Because that's the solstice, winter and summer solstice. So you have that. So now you have January and July line up, right? Now, when you take everything that's happened in January, right, with the whole riots and everything, well, on 1/6 with the riots, that's actually the Orthodox Christmas Eve. Okay. So then you have Orthodox Christmas is 1/7. Okay. Now you transfer that to July. Remember they said Christmas in July. So that means 7/6 is Christmas Eve. 7/7 is Christmas. Notice the sevens, right? So then we have that. Now, last year, 7/7 was on a Tuesday. Everything big happened on Tuesdays. We have a trace from 7/7 all the way to 11/3, because 11/3 was the election, and 7/7 from 7/7 to 11/3 was 17 weeks exactly.
Right.
Because sister's birthday's on 7/7, mine's on 8/25, and mom and nephew's was on 10/27. They're all Tuesdays. I'm like, that's
too
weird.
Much of a coincidence.
Yeah, hers was 17 weeks, mine was 10 weeks, and theirs was 1 week delta. I'm like, gotta be.
So you're saying that all this was orchestrated by the good guys, and they made it 17 to let us know indirectly that they're the ones in control.
Yes, because the good guys are, in fact, the National Council of Statewide Interoperability Coordinators, the NCSWIC. That's who they are. They're the ones that are putting on this show for us. There's a lot of them.
And just to confirm that NCSWIC,
yes,
stands for Nothing Can Stop What Is Coming.
Yes, but also it's the National Council of Statewide Interoperability Coordinators. They actually left the link for us in one of the last drops. Now, if you go through it, I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, I got a big stack of just everything we copied off it. But if you go through it and you understand exactly what you're looking at here, then you get you get an idea for what everything is. Because remember, we described the bridge 1, bridge 2. Yeah, the governance team and the technical team for the clones, for the catch and release, right? When they were taking the bad ones and replacing it with the clones. So they were all, under a hive mind. They're all under military intelligence. So they're all just spying on everyone.
Right.
Now, under this, there are 4 committees, right? That's the 4-10-20. They have 4 total committees. They have 10 regional interoperability councils, and they have 20 executive committee members. So right there's your 4-10-20.
Right. Interesting.
And then it is. And when the whole 11.2, like when they put like 11.2 and how the 1776 commission was signed on 11.2. That was the day before the election last year on November 2nd. But there's also 112 total members, primary and alternate, for this, because they have the 56 states and territories. Now, with the 56 states and territories, they've got American Samoa. They have CNMI, which is the Northern Mariana Islands. They have the District of Columbia, Guam, Puerto Rico, and Virgin Islands. Those are included with the 50 states that give us 56. But there's a catch. There's 2 states that are vacant, Connecticut and Massachusetts. Connecticut, we just talked about, but Connecticut's a lot bigger than that, because Connecticut, this is where we're going to dig into the whole Lexington Concord, right? So when we go into Connecticut, this is big. So under the Connecticut's official state website, right? Now they have the Office of Secretary of the State, Denise W. Merrill. Now it states about the Business Services Division of the state of Connecticut. Now on the side here, it has a little box that says, effective June 17th, 2021, Concord, it's all in bold, is no longer available for online business and UCC filings. All business filings will be available on the Connecticut Business One-Stop website on June 21st, 2021. Please visit the Secretary of State Business Services Division for more information. Now, what this is the Concord. That's what the state website is called. It's called Concord,
Right.
but it's an acronym. So now when they say effective June 17, 2021, and they have done in 30, exactly 30. What's our 30? July 17th, 2021. So they knew all the way back then that this was going to be here. They laid out all these markers.
Right.
Because what they are, they're markers. All these markers are just, when they say it's a map throughout time, they actually went through and put markers for all these, for everybody to follow. Because I mean, we have a membership list, everything. I mean, they gave us everything. And what they did, they gave us the chair, the vice chair for the governance committee, for the planning, training, and exercise committee. And the planning, training, exercise committee, they developed the ComX portal. Now, also, they have the communications vehicle exercise, which is ComVE, and earthquake emergency support function number 2. It's a tabletop exercise situation manual template. Now, when we think earthquakes, we could also think hurricane hits, because in President Trump's first tweet, he mentioned about the GDP being 3.0, and that despite heavy hurricane hits, it's the most consecutive Qs in years. So Qs, you think quarters, because on the first tweet, Q wasn't even established then. Q didn't come about until the middle of November. Remember, at the beginning of October, I mean, there was nobody that signed them. Then it kicked off to a Q. So he was already, and I mean, he literally went backwards. Because we printed them out, and I'll bring them next week. And what they did is that from the first drop, for us to look at, and they just went ahead and started talking about all these things, right? Well, then you go and take his tweets and you lay them on top of them, and you notice that he actually went backwards with everybody he's getting. Like, you got Hollywood, first responders, and then he ends with like big pharma and everything. It's like, this guy, I mean, he went ahead and posted all these in a manner of, how they were going to do it. But if you look at it backwards, it's exactly what's going on right now. He's taking them out exactly all in order. I'm like,
so you're saying that these are tweets that he made before he was president?
No. He was president then.
Right.
Because these were October 28th, 2017, on day one.
Right.
It was actually in the morning. It was like 7 something in the morning that he made his first tweet that
As
correlated
president.
with, well, no, not as president, but as the Q for the Q drops.
Right.
Because the Q drops, they overlay, and then you can go right to the tweets and you can catch up with all of his tweets as well. It was on the one site and they took it down. So thankfully we printed it up and we have all the we have everything saved. So
especially you, Jason. I mean, you're doing fantastic work with all those archives behind you, you know?
Well, I mean, they told us to archive it offline, and collectively as a whole, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you just do it. I mean,
absolutely.
It's hard to describe, but it's something good for all of us.
So let's move over to the Trump speech at CPAC.
Yes.
I done an interview with Juan 07, and he says that there were many, many clues. So tell us, what do you think, Jay? You're the decoder here. I mean, what's happening?
There were tons of clues, tons of comms, tons of clues. And in fact, even Don Jr. had a lot of them the day before. And his was pretty big too.
Mm-hmm.
And what Don Jr. said even had me shocked. Because once you realize what he did, then you realize, you know, what Daddy's going to do. It's like, ooh, this is going to get good. So that's Saturday, and that's the day before. Junior was out there talking about, you know, about the 4th of July in Sarasota, you know. He's like, oh, it's 100-degree heat. And, you know, there were 45,000 people that responded to come and everything like that. He said, well, okay, it wasn't 100. It was 98 degrees, guys. It's like, there's 17. It's like, he said, but it's a 99.9% humidity. It's like, then you have to go to the bell curve. Remember what is it? The 66 point something to 99.9. It's like a whole bell curve. It's like, it's all the mathematics behind the higher order of thinking. And he started mentioning all the numbers. He said it rained for 3 hours. He said 137 people went to go dry off. I'm like, that's an 11. But why would you, I mean, how would you know exactly like the number? Right? And he's like, but people sat outside in 100-degree heat for 8 hours. Well, okay. I mean, 8 hours. And he said that for 8 hours on a holiday weekend, 3 hours of rain. And he's like, it's a movement. It's like, okay, there's an 8 hours and 8 hour holiday weekend. It's like right there. That's our tip for what's happening tomorrow, because the IRS 88th anniversary, right? But then he started talking about, he talked about Putin and Trump, and it was 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the speech. And he turns to Mercedes, right? Mercedes is the wife of the man that financed the CPAC and everything.
Uh-huh.
He's like, turns to the crowd, he's like, you know what's right, babe? He said comms. I'm like, did you say comms? Like, you just said comms. You said like out loud. Junior did.
Right.
Right on stage, just blatantly said it. I'm like, okay, now we're on. But then he's talking about Florida, right? He said it's flat, like South Texas. He said there's like a 6-inch elevation change over a 20-mile area. Now, and then he said they're lying to you about everything. I'm like, okay, so let me get this straight. All these globies and all that, they want to sit here and talk, but it's like right here said Florida is flat like South Texas, right? Well, Florida is the flattest state in the union. Mm-hmm. Kansas has a concave, but Florida is the flattest. We have all the geological surveys numbers and everything. We have the book for it. We're not coming in this half-cocked. We know what's going on. So when he says there's a 6-inch elevation change over a 20-mile area, well, per their chart for the globe, a 20-mile drop is 266.74 feet. That's not a 6-inch elevation change. It's a big change.
Mm-hmm.
So he's pretty much saying like, hey, It's flat. Just like NASA said, just like the pilots say, just like everybody says.
And the logos.
Yes. Everything. Everything points to it. All the symbols. I mean, everything. But there's so many people that just can't. They're so indoctrinated to that globe because of the symbol that they don't think anything else.
Mm-hmm.
They can't think anything else. Even though they said, hey, read the Bible. It's in the first chapter, guys. I mean, it's right there. I mean, if you're gonna come at any of us with the Bible, well, then you need to read that. Because you can't wave that book at us and then say, well, you know what's going on. It's like, oh, it's bomb ball. It's like, well, it's not. It's like they came up with this whole concoction.
Right.
Because whose realm are we really in? I mean, what the dates and everything. Everybody's waiting for this whole 1,000 years of peace and everything. And King Jesus is like, guys, they already had it. They already had it. This is when the after effects for when they had to, after the 1,000 years of peace, they had to pretty much open up the pit and let them out again to see if they changed, to see if they get a second chance, to see if they're forgiven. Problem is, not many of them did. Lucifer, yes. Satan, no. Not by a long shot. That's why, when they said that they were going to release him for a short time, well, a short time meaning like our existence short time, because that could be thousands of years. But it could also be 6 months, it could be 4 years, 5 years, could be any time. When they say it's just a limited amount of time, they'll know when it's time.
Absolutely. So what would you say was very significant in Trump's speech that you looked, you listened and got excited?
All of it.
No, I know, but we want to know the details.
Well, when he came out and said, we're not going to take this anymore, and I'm like, hold up. I'm like, on the final drop, the last cue drop, the video in it it's a great video with him, everybody in it. But the song, it's We're Not Going to Take It by Twisted Sister. And they actually deleted it off YouTube, but it's on Rumble. You can find it on Rumble.
Right.
So when you find it and you watch it, you're like, why did they delete this again? And you realize, oh,
that's why.
Copyright laws. Huh. And who does the copyright? IRS. So it's like, oh, so this is a nice little battle of factions. So when he announced that for the lawsuit, he said, hey, we're filing a class action lawsuit against Facebook, Twitter, all of them, YouTube. And he's like, whoever wants in, it's like, all of us do.
So why did he call Mark Zuckerbucks? Why did he say that? Zuckerbucks, and people started laughing. Was there a secret meaning behind that?
Probably took all of his money.
Sorry?
They probably took all his money, seized all his assets.
Well, absolutely. There was an interview that I did with Tara Dean Jane, on February the 1st. And we were reading out an executive order that's Trump signed in November, that was activated on the 1st of February. And it speaks about anyone that's involved in election fraud, dominion, or anyone giving money to anyone would have their assets frozen.
Yes. And how many people have been in on this election fraud?
Many.
A lot. And especially what Texas did yesterday. I don't know if you heard, but Texas was having a vote for the quorum for the voting bill. And it's just like, show ID. I mean, it's basic common sense. Well, all the Democrats in the state, they left. They went to Washington, D.C. because they wanted the federal government to pass this whole, was it the HR 1 or S1, whatever stupid bill it is. Problem is that that's where the Republicans got smart. They said, hey, they had talked to Greg Abbott, the governor, and they issued an arrest warrant for all of them. Once they get back into Texas, once they cross the state line, they're to be arrested and brought straight to the House of Representatives. It's like, That's a lot of arrest warrants because they're all out there partying, having a good time, thinking that they're protesting. It's like, you're not protesting. You know, you wanted the rules. Well, it's basic. It's like, okay, well, you have to show your ID for everything. Well, I mean, they all took a plane. You have to show your ID when you get on a plane.
Mm-mm.
Why wouldn't you show your ID when you vote? I mean, that's just common sense.
Absolutely. They're just trying to trying to say it's racist all of a sudden to show your ID, but you have to show your ID buying alcohol.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, to get in any place. I mean, even to go into bars or anything like that, you have to show ID.
So how close do you think we are from Donald J. Trump, President Trump, taking back that beautiful White House, as he says?
He does not want that White House. He even mentioned in the speech. He said White House, little letters, small letters. It's like, guys, he just get the whole it's not a proper noun anymore. When you put in small letters, it's just another White House. That's all it is.
So what was he referring to when he said small letters?
It's not going back there. That means that we're moving. The capital is moving. Because DC is not a part of the United States. It's a district.
Yes.
It's a part of the three evil entities. You got London, Vatican.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say like the city of London.
Yeah.
So do you think that it could be Mar-a-Lago or somewhere different or sophisticated?
Well, Mar-a-Lago is his home. So, I mean, as long as he's in office, he can have it there, but they will eventually make, another capital, but where? I mean, it could be Philadelphia, could be anywhere, could be South Carolina. I mean, it's a toss up.
I mean, Mar-a-Lago used to be a presidential suite for former presidents,
Yes.
And I think it's been years and years since Trump has had Mar-a-Lago. So it's no coincidence that he has Mar-a-Lago. And then he becomes president years later. Right?
What a fluke, huh?
Yeah.
These guys are they're epic. They really are.
I mean, unless of course he's read the book Last President, that might have given him the clue.
If you read it, they're so in tune with all this. It's not even funny. I mean, he was yelling out numbers like crazy. 17 points down. I mean, he was yelling 17 instead of 19. And then he's like ABC News and then Washington Post. ABC News, Washington Post. It's like, do you know what he just did there? He gave us the Caesar cipher. Because what it is you have a Caesar cipher. It's when they say like P equals C, right? What that is, it's like when you put the letters all in one column, right? Mm-hmm. Like A, and then you put next to it. So when it gets a C, ABC, so next to C, you put P. Then you go D is Q, E is R, and you just write out the alphabet, you run it all out, and you circle it back. So it all changes. So this letter now is this letter. So I think what he did is that he kept on saying ABC and then Washington Post. He changed the W is going to equal P. Mm-hmm. So now we have to do a whole new cipher for that. And they're going to put out codes and we can find out what they're talking about.
I see. So do you think Trump will be back at the end of the year, beginning of 2022? What do you think?
Next month.
Next month. You're very... Let's see. I mean, you're very confident.
August 15th.
Okay. Let's see what happens. Well, Jay, it's been absolutely wonderful having you on again. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Nothing. I mean, just keep your vibrations, keep everything up because there's a lot of people in on this. So if you want, go ahead and check out that NCS WIC. They actually have the link in the Q drops. It's one of the last Q drops, and you can go through that. But there's so much to it that if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you get lost real easy. So that's why with us, we went through everything, and we actually know some of this, so we can actually tie it to things that we've talked about in the past. So that's why it's such an integral part of it.
Absolutely. Well, Jay, no, thank you very, very much for your time and your
Thank you
hard
so
work.
much.
You're doing a fantastic job. And we really appreciate you. The viewers love you and they really appreciate you. And I'm honored to have you on my show. And thank you.
Thanks a lot, my man. And yeah, you're getting some pretty good heavy hitters on there. I mean, Gene Deco and Waddle Stay with one show. I'm like, whoo, man. I'm like, that's blow your mind right there. So, but yeah, you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you. And we'll speak again very soon next week. Thank you. And
definitely will.
Bless you. Okay.
Bless you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.